Line 98. Again, if you're following in a different edition, this is line 98 according to the breakdown of this book, which was mimicked in the Chen Shenwu book. If you look at this particular version, we're on line 96. You look at someone else's version, you might be on line 94. Most importantly, please remember there are no line numbers. That was added later to help people have a discussion. So whether you're looking at Zhao Kaimei's numbers that he chose, or Zhao Kaimei putting in Cheng Wuji's separations, it's just a commentary. But please remember, there never was a line attached to anything until people needed to talk about it in a discussion. Line 98 in my edition, it is the line that introduces us to Xiao Chai Hu Tang in depth. Shanghan 无6日. Shanghan illness, damaged by cold, 5-6 days. Remember, we see these numbers, we now know the cycle of 7 days, where that means we should be roughly, or what's coming. 中风, struck by wind. 往来寒热, heat and cold coming and going, alternating fever and chills is what you'll see in your books. 胸胁苦满, the chest and the flank, the ribs, the sides, that 胁 means the sides, are painful and full. 默默不语饮食, quietly or silently not desiring to eat and drink. 心烦喜忧, the heart is vexed. There's a desire, a wanting to vomit, to have nausea. It doesn't mean that they're actually vomited, just they have this nausea feeling. 或 or, very important, we're about to have a lot of ors. 或胸中烦而不呕, or there is vexing right in the center of the chest and there is no nausea. 或渴, or there's thirst. 或腹中痛, or there's pain in the abdomen. 或胁下痞满, or beneath the side ribs, there is P, that hardness, so there's P hardness. And this character hardness is very interesting. You'll see it, I don't want to use the word mistyped, because it's very hard to find a typeface on your computer that has this character. It says hard, and the character in Chinese has the stone radical, and then this other radical. And that's hard, obviously, like stone hard. The character that's always been used has the character for leather as the part of the hard. So it's not hard like a rock, it's hard like stiff leather, like you can push it, but it's got some malleability to it, but it's not stone hard rock, it's leatherly. So that is that 卸下, beneath the ribs, there's the P hardness. 或, another or 心下急, beneath the heart or beneath the center, there's palpitations. 小便不利, and the urine does not come out. That should start flagging you, whoa, palpitations, difficulty urine. We had those fooling formulas earlier. 或不渴, or not thirsty. 身有微热, the body has some mild heat. 或渴, or they're coughing. 与小青龙汤主之, we give them 小青龙汤 as our primary formula. And we're about to understand where the whole idea... Xiao Chai Hu Tang.
You just said Xiao Chai Hu Tang.
Yeah, you did. Oh, sorry. Xiao Chai Hu Tang. Xiao Chai Hu Tang. So we're giving them Xiao Chai Hu Tang. See, that's how errors are introduced into the books. Right there, right? So we are about to have the ban biao ban li, or half interior, half exterior, where this all comes from. We're about to have it hammered into us, and you're going to see why it's taken on such great proportion, is Cheng Wuji's commentary. 病有在表者, illnesses, there can be those that are on the surface. 有在里者, there are those that are on the inside. 有在表里之间者, there are those that are in between the surface and the interior. 侧邪气在表里之间. This pernicious is in between the surface and the interior. 位置半表半里征. This is what's known as half interior, half exterior symptoms. 无6日, 5 or 6 days. 邪气自表转离之时, this is the time when the pernicious qi starts to turn into the body. This is where it's going to go into the taiyin, shaoyin, jueyin on those days. 中风者, struck by wind, 或伤寒, 至无流日也. This is struck by wind or 伤寒, 5 or 6 days. 御寒曰, see, I put the book on the floor upstairs to bring down. I have the actual 御寒. So if we remember, we have the original, however Zhang Zhongjing wrote his book. And then it got spread out, and it was regathered, and then it was separated. And not like a clear separation where there's Shanghan and there's Jin-Huai, because there's different versions of who's where and what. And the book that keeps getting referenced often is the Yu Han Jing, right? Which we have. And again, is what we call the Jin-Huai. It's one of the versions, one of the early versions, one of the important ones whose commentaries or sentence structure is sometimes different from what we now today most commonly see as the Jin-Huai in the classes. So Cheng Wuji at this time has to reference which Jin-Huai is he referencing. Is he referencing the Yuhan? Is he referencing the Jin-Ke Yao Lie? They all might have slightly different lines. And within the Yuhan, in this book, it says, 中风无流日, struck by wind, 5-6 days. 伤寒往来寒热, damaged by cold, heat and cold alternating or coming and going. Chills and fever is coming and going. I don't like the chills and fever because you can have chills with a fever, and that's guizhitang, right? But this is coming and going. 即是或中风. This is actually, they are either struck by wind or by shanghan. 非是, it is not 伤寒在中风. It is not struck by cold and then they are damaged by cold and then they are struck by wind. Or 中风, struck by wind, and then shanghan, damaged by cold. Now, if you aren't part of the debates that are around this book, you're like, so what? It is amazing how many people have written articles about this very beginning. 伤寒无流日, fever, cold damage, 5-6 days, 中风, then struck by cold, struck by wind, as if you've gotten a second disease. So here you were, and you got the cold, and then the wind hit you. And now you have all of these symptoms, and that it took this double whammy to get you where you are. And that's not what it means clinically. It's important to remember. And obviously, this, in the end of the song in the Jin, this was an argument going on that must have been hugely important in the Tang when they were reorganizing these books for Cheng Wuji to completely bang this down on us over and over again with what's going to happen. So, he said it's not what it is. And then he quotes, Xiao Chai Hu Tang. If there is a symptom, or it's known as a Chai Hu symptom, or a symptom that we've just listed, 单见一症便是. All we have to see is one of those symptoms, and it's a Chai Hu illness. 不必悉具者. It's not necessary for them to all be there in order to diagnose the illness. 正是为火中风或伤寒也. This is the meaning. It could be from a shanghan, or it could be from a struck by wind. 泻在表子寒. When the pernicious is on the surface, there is a cold. 泻在里子热. When the pernicious is on the inside, we have heat. And that's a nice way for us to remember, where's the illness? Where's the illness? Where's the illness? Well, ask your patient, regardless of how they feel to the touch. Hot, feverish. Do they feel cold? Are they afraid of wind? Pernicious is still on the surface. They're cold to the touch. You touch them and they're freezing, but they're not wearing any clothes, and they've got heat. Pernicious is on the inside. Early line of the Shanghan Lun. There are those who seem cold to the touch but have no desire to close. There are those who desire clothes but are hot to the touch. And it's the difference between heat on the skin and cold in the bones, or heat in the bones, cold in the skin. So, Jin today, or in this situation, 卸在板表板里之间, the pernicious is halfway in to the outside and halfway out from the inside. 未有定处, there's no fixed location. 是以寒热往来也, and this is when you have cold and heat coming and going. 卸在表, when the pernicious is on the outside of the surface, 则心腹不满, then there would be no fullness in the heart, which here means that central area, not your heart, but the central area, your gastric, and your abdomen. And remember, when we think of all the symptoms we've had, when either you've got heat below or pernicious water below, the Cheng Wuji Tangs, it's always a fullness of abdomen or a fullness here in the heart. 血在里, the pernicious is on the inside, 则心腹满, then there would be fullness in the epigastric circle or the center and the abdomen. Okay, so if we can just be clear whether our patient subjectively feels cold, whether they subjectively feel bloating or fullness or discomfort in the center or not, would tell us whether it's on the inside or outside. 今只言胸胁苦满. In this circumstance, all they've said is that the chest and ribs have pain and fullness. There's no mention of the 心下 or the fu or any of those things until our 火 symptoms, right? 知, thus we know, 邪气在表里也. Thus we know the pernicious qi is in the surface and interior. 默默, the quietly. What does it mean? 默默 means 静也. It means stillness. Quiet. 邪在表, the 声音. I love this part. So when the pernicious is on the outside or on the surface, then the person moans, complains, is not quiet. Like, oh, I feel like crap. Oh, I can't believe this. My head is so stuffy. I can't believe I'm so sick. And they just go on and on and on and on and on. And if you've been around something like this, it's like, okay, we got it. You're sick, right? 血在里, when the pernicious goes to the inside, 则, thus, we have fan, men, luan. We have vexation, fulminating, kind of getting all upset, or even full-on luan, chaos. So we see our progression. Pernicious comes in, and the person's complaining. And then if you were to take complaining, which is a number 3, and turn it to 11, right? And you get to 11, you have the full-on chaos or heat or craziness that comes with a true Yangming. So progression is complaining to full-on like vexation, anger, irritability, all of that. It's not what we have here, right? 内经曰, when the Neijing states, 阳入之阴, 则经. When the yang is going into the yin, things are calm. 默默者, those that have that sort of silence, that just like they're not talking about it. 泄放自表者里. This is the pernicious, is in the act of going from the surface to the inside. What does that look like? So I've just said someone's complaining. I can't believe how stuffed up my head is. And you get the other one who's just crazy, like just vexed in the bed or really upset. This is the person who's kind of like, and they never actually get it out. It's not like they're like, okay, in this part I'm in the quiet. It's not the eye of the hurricane where they're perfectly still. It's like they want to say something, but they just don't. And they're just whatever's going on, they're getting sicker and sicker that they don't want to engage anymore. And then that sick comes in and goes bang, and out comes the heat. So that's what that process is. It's not like there's this weird quiet calm. They're getting sicker. It's getting sicker and sicker that you're just like, I'm just getting sicker. There's that moment when you're on the bus or on a plane or wherever you are and you suddenly feel yourself getting really sick and you're just like, ooh. And you know, it's on its way in. So, 在表里之间也, This is when the illness is in between. 泻在表, if the pernicious is on the surface, 自能食, then the person is able to eat. Another great way, you're not sure where the illness is, ask your patient. Can you eat? 泻在里, pernicious on the inside, 自不能食. Then, if the pernicious is on the inside, they can't eat. 不欲饮食, if they do not desire to eat. 泻在表里之间, then the pernicious is in between the surface and the interior. 为之与必不能食也. They have not reached the point where they can't eat. They just don't desire to eat. 泻在表, if the illness is on the surface, 则不烦不呕. Then the person does not have vexing, nor do they have nausea. And I want to pause here because if you read the Shanghanlun carefully and often enough, and you memorize it, you're going to memorize that one of the 体痛 ou ni, one of the signs that the Ma Huang is progressing, that the Shanghan, the cold, is progressing, is the body has aches and there is nausea. 迫于吐, great desire to vomit. And he's just said, on the surface, there is no nausea. What he's going to refer to here is the fact that those earlier lines mean the illness is progressing. Because if you keep reading those earlier lines, it says if the pulses are fast and tight, then it's progressing. It's going to go into the yangming. And then if it doesn't, if the mai jingzhe, the pulses are calm, then it won't. So he's saying if it's just surface and it's not progressing, there isn't that nausea. And the nausea indicates progression. 泻在里, pernicious is on the inside, 则烦满而呕. Then they have vexing, fullness, and nausea. 烦喜呕者. Those who have vexing have a feel or prone to. It's not like the character literally means to like. But it doesn't mean, obviously, no one likes to have nausea. It's they are prone to nausea. 泻在表, 方转里也. That nausea indicates the pernicious is progressing from the surface to the inside. 泻出入里, when the pernicious is just entering, at the very beginning of entering to the inside, 唯有定处. There is no place, it is yet settled, it hasn't chosen its location. 则缩转不一. Thus, there is so many, the transition from outside to inside doesn't end up in the same place every time. It doesn't end up in one place. 故有火为之症. Thus, there are so many or symptoms, or this or that. 有柴胡症. If there is a Chai Hu symptom, he's going to repeat himself. 但见一症便是. If you can see one of the symptoms, it is correct. It is a Chai Hu 症. 既是此火为之症. This is the meaning of all these ors as symptoms. And he keeps saying 但见一症便是. That's the Shanghanlun. So that's his little character commentary, but we're about to have it in big characters later on. So he's quoting Zhang Zhongjing. And every old doctor case will come in and it's not clear what's going on, and then they'll write a variation of Chai Hu Tang, and you'll say, why? And they'll look at you and say, 但见一症便是. It's like, they had one symptom, and you're like, they were nauseous, or they had this, and they're like, but this is what it is. It's like the calling card of like, I can use Chai Hu for everything. And we're going to find out a bunch of lines. He's going to say, I've said this, now here's a bunch of lines where there's these symptoms, it's not Xiao Chai Hu Tang. Right? It's the Taiji, it's not always. So, our first herb, Chai Hu, Banjin, 175 grams. Cool, bitter, slightly cold. Huangqin. I'd like to add that, for me, Chai Hu is always acrid and bitter, and you'll often see it as an acrid herb. And for him, it was bitter, but most importantly, when we look at the cooking method, we're going to see that any acridity is gone. We're focusing on bitter. The Huangqin, 3 liang, bitter and cold. We have Ren Shen, we have 3 liang, sweet, and of course Cheng Wuji always says warm, which is not necessarily correct. We have Gansao, and he has 3 liang, 3 liang, And interestingly, he doesn't go to put the zhi, or the prepared, in here, but everybody does fill it with prepared gansao. I shouldn't say everybody, maybe there's lots of people who don't. But if you go to a pharmacy and you write Chai Hu or you get Chai Hu, it's going to be prepared. Ban xia, we have ban jin, half a jin, and it is acrid and warm. And remember, I pointed out last time that you'll see ban xia sometimes measured in sheng, sometimes in jin, and it's just these formulas were coming from different old books, different old time periods and practitioners, so it's just whatever measurement they used. We have shengjiang, we have 3 liang of shengjiang, acrid and warm, and then we have da zao, which Julianne showed is da zao, big, not the little dried things that you see in the pharmacies. I don't know what they're like here, but in China, I mean, it's like I've never seen a more anorexic date in my life than the ones they foist upon you in the pharmacies. And you've got 12 of those chopped up, sweet and warm. And Cheng Wuji begins right off the bat. Neijing Yue, the Neijing states, Re Yin Yu Ne, when there is heat pernicious in the inside, Yi Ku Fa, we use bitter to fa, or to expel it. And that's a really interesting word use, because we're so used to seeing the word xin, or acrid, and then next to the word fa, or to push out, or to admit. Because that fa has an idea of going this way, out. And we think of bitter as down and draining. And yet the Neijing is being clear that bitter can also fa. We have to be clear what it is fa-ing, where it's attacking. Chai Hu Huangqin zhi ku, the bitter of Chai Hu and Huangqin, yi fa zhuan xie zhi re. It is to push out and change or move out the pernicious heat. Li bu zu zhe, those whose inside are not full, yi gan huan zhi. We use sweet to soften or calm it. Renshen gancao zhi gan, the sweet of gancao and renshen, yi huan zhong, to alleviate the middle, he zhi qi, and to harmonize its qi, implying there was something in rebellion. I talked about that last time, about that he is actually talking about there were extreme symptoms that you have calmed. Xie ban ru li, the pernicious has moved halfway into the inside. Zi li qi ni, thus the inside qi is ni, and so it's going in the wrong direction, or it's fighting back. So our pernicious is here, and it comes in, and it has the inside qi is pushing there. It's hit a barrier, and either the barrier is going to dissolve, and it's going to go all the way to the Yangming, or it's going to push it up. But in this moment of struggle, there's qi going up and something trying to go down. And that's what we're talking about here, and that's the nausea. Xin yi sanzhi, this acrid is going to disperse that. Ban xia yi chu fan o, and that ban xia is going to kick out or get rid of the vexation, which is the struggle, and the o, the nausea of that rebellious qi pushing back up. Xie zai ban biao, the pernicious is half on the surface. So let's back up here. He's just described, how do we know it's halfway in? There's vexing and nausea. So it's gone in, but it hasn't gone far enough, and there's a battle right here creating nausea. How do we know that it's left the surface and halfway in? He's about to describe that for us. Xie zai ban biao, the pernicious is at the halfway from the surface. Ce yin wei zheng zhi. Thus, we see a battle of the nutritive and defensive qis. Xin gan jie zhe. We use acrid and sweet to relieve this. Jiang zao yi he yin wei. The ginger and dates are to harmonize the yin and the wei. And then we have to stop and say, okay, we're reading a commentary, but it's a heck of a commentary. But do we need to revisit our Guizhitang understanding, where everyone has the belief that it is the fact that you have warm, acrid Guizhi and cool, sour Baishao that is the harmonizing of the yin and the wei. And he's just come out and said, the harmonizing of the yin and the wei is the ginger and the dates. The warm acrid of the ginger and the sweet cloying of the dates. And so we want to file that in our heads and say, is it as simple as that? Is it more than that? But one of the things that I hope is last time 2 times ago we clarified the use of dazao, or maybe it was last time. And then we clarified the use of fuling. And as we go forward, I'm hoping this time that we can clarify shengjiang, or raw ginger, as our herb. So we look at our herbs, and it says the 7 herbs we put in a pot with 1 dou and 2 shengs, and we boil down 6 shengs of water. We scoop off the top. Please remember that today herbs rarely have that froth. One of the questions I received recently was, the person had ma huang from the old days when it was legal and hadn't been used in a long time. So they're like, should they look for the froth, not the froth? Ma huang doesn't have froth. It's just herbs, whatever was going on, they write that. And then here's the key line that you'll hear a lot about. 再煎, you cook it again. So you cook it down halfway, and then you scoop off whatever anything is there, and then you cook it again, and you reduce it by half again. 1 fu yi sheng, and then you take it warm, 1 sheng, and you take it 3 times a day. And so this line, I don't want to get too tied up in here, but there's a lot of misunderstanding thinking that the he method is you cook the herbs down and then you cook them again to take the edges off all the herbs because the pernicious is in the middle, so you need to get rid of the acrid and make sure the bitter, all things mild. So the double cooking helps to milder, make mild the herbs. And then that you are taking it in small doses. A sheng is not a small dose, but this is what you'll hear out there 3 times a day, this slow, gentle way of taking it. So you cook it so the herbs are all gentled, and then you take it gently. That's not what it says, but you will hear it interpreted that way out there in the world.